Welcome to the Mint Door podcast with Dr. Karen Tyndall and Dr. Laura Schwint.
Are you a high achiever feeling the burnout blues? The Mint Door podcast is your oasis. Before we introduce you to today's phenomenal guest, we're extending an invitation to something extraordinary. We're mixing up the perfect antidote to burnout with our Mint Julep newsletter, a weekly dose of inspiration delivered straight to your inbox.
Each edition of the Mint Julep is more than just words on a page. It delivers connection, brimming with inspiration, positivity, and a dash of fun. Think of it as your virtual happy hour with a supportive community of high achievers. We'll help you unwind, recharge, and rediscover the joy in the everyday.
So subscribe to the Mint Julep and let's clink glasses or coffee mugs to live a more inspired, joyful life 1 week at a time. Perhaps you're more of a visual learner. Well, we've got you covered. All of our podcasts plus bite-sized coaching tips are on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@themintdoor. Subscribe there for happiness on the go.
And so now for today's podcast, we're calling all dental warriors ready to rise above the ordinary. Buckle up because we have a powerhouse joining us today. Dr. Maggie Augustyn is an award-winning dentist, and she isn't just about fixing smiles. She's a practice owner of 18 years, an author, an international speaker, and a beacon of hope for those seeking personal and professional fulfillment.
Dr. Augustyn's journey is one of resilience and deep empathy, and she's here to share her wisdom on empowerment, healing, and connection. Get ready to be inspired and discover your own path to self-actualization. Let's welcome Dr. Maggie Augustyn to the show.
Well, welcome Mint Door podcast listeners. Today, we are honored and super excited to have the wonderful Dr. Maggie Augustyn here in the studio to have an amazing, authentic, genuine conversation. And Maggie, thank you so much for everything that you do, everything that you exude, and for spending some time with us today. We can't wait to dig into just getting to know you a little better.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this for a really long time, and I love everything that the two of you bring to dentistry, and like we talked about off the air for a little bit, what you have to offer ought to be brought in to the world of dentistry right when we start dental school. That's how instrumental and important it is in our opportunity to evolve and grow.
Well, and it's just wonderful that we're recognizing this more and more. So
yes,
to you for bringing light to it, and thank you for the thank you.
So I want to jump straight in there because we've got some really good questions for you today. And when we last saw you speak, it was back in Frisco, Texas, back in March. These questions have been brewing, and I'd love to know some of the answers. So we know that you inspire people who are seeking self-actualization in dentistry. And the question is how can dentists strike that balance between staying grounded and acknowledging their success to building confidence and feeling truly worthy of who they are?
I think it's a lifelong process. And I write about it and I talk about it. And one of my best friends always tells me, when are you going to start taking your own advice? And I think we also, I think it's cyclical. I think there's times in our lives where we do feel like we are in balance in all the good that we want to embody in our own passions and our pursuits. And then there's times that we're not. Recently, I heard that the difference between harmony and balance. And I almost like that more, the idea of being in harmony of who we are, because balance, some days it's almost, impossible to attain. And how do you get there? I think the best advice that I have on that is to staying conscious and present as much as you can, which of course we hear all the time from everyone, right? But how do you how do you actually do that? I think it's finding the little things that give you a boost in feeling like a worthy human being, finding those little things that make you feel worthy and make you feel good inside, and doing more of them is as simple as I can break it down. And the other part of the equation, which I struggle with very much, is I think from the beginning of when we get to this earth, we are attempting to stay productive, and we just, because that's what the ego wants. The ego just wants to feel like they're productive and worthy. And we think that we get that from doing more and more things. But that in turn reduces the balance and the harmony. And so recently in my own therapy, I have found that feeding my ego less might actually bring me to a place of more happiness. So like when you're laying on the couch, right? And your ego is telling you, get up, go and do something with your time. You got to tell your ego, chill out, dude. I already did what I needed to do today, and now it's okay for me to just relax.
That ego is a powerful voice.
Yeah, it pisses me off. Me and my ego are like not cool right now. My ego's driven me to a point where I'm a lot out of balance and harmony.
What would you want to say to your ego?
Without using blasphemous language, just, I mean, like, well, how do you say that to ego? You're not number one, right? Like, I think one of the things that I'm suffering from right now, which feeds into the whole ego thing, is we keep telling ourselves, make more time for yourself, make time for yourself. Think about who you are, be good to yourself. And I think that I have overdone that. And as a result of doing what is good to me, I have put other relationships in jeopardy in my life. That being my relationship with my husband. I think I have been chasing what my ego has wanted for so long that I've come to a point where, you know, Scott and I are in trouble, and I need to lay off the ego in order to serve him and to carry him, as opposed to myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. How does it feel? You know, you talk about doing those little things to feel good, that make you feel good.
I think all of us have this. So I eat an Uncrustable sandwich every morning for breakfast. And I know there's no crust, but I still take off the crust. And the reason why I take off that crust is because I put it on my hand and I feed it to my dog. And I love how his nose and tongue feels against my palm. Like, that is one of my favorite things to do in the morning. But I'm so rushed in the morning that sometimes he'll just take a couple of those bites, and then I don't have time to sit here and wait for him to gather all of it. So I just throw it on the floor. That is an idea. That is the idea behind doing those tiny, tiny little things that put a smile on your face, and not rushing through them, but instead finding more opportunities to feed him the scraps off my plate. But I mean, it could be as simple as that. It could be as simple as just anything that puts a smile on your face. Take the time to do it 2 or 3 times more than you're already doing it.
So maybe that's what you say to your ego.
Yes. Yeah.
that the real power is finding those moments and taking the time
to feel them and to live them and to own them, right? And to celebrate them. All of those things. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, we've just developed in this masculine culture, and I don't mean masculinity as man, we've developed into this culture of attaining and collecting. And sometimes, you know, there's the softer side, the feminine side of things, the moon side as opposed to the sun side, right? To complete those accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it's a softer side to celebrate the accomplishment as opposed to attaining it, isn't it? It's like, you've got step 1 through 4 to attain something, and then you forget that there should be a step 5, which is to celebrate the attainment. But instead you go 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4, and you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's another lesson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great lesson. I love that you brought the ego into it. And I love that you brought the masculine femininity and the balance of that harmony, really. Because those are things I think that we don't talk about a lot in the high achievement world that we run in, the circle that we run in. And I think that a lot of people want to hear that more. They have that knowing side, or that desire inside, but yet they don't know how to put it into words. And so sometimes just having these conversations. So I thank you for bringing this up, and I thank you for authentically sharing with us where you're at in it and what you're experiencing.
I thank you for your thank you. So I started something called trauma therapy. And I'm going to give a shout out to Kelly Burns, because she's incredible. And she's the one that I'm doing this therapy with. And she is teaching me about the right side, the giving side, the attaining side. And it's funny because all of my life I have had physical issues with my right side. You could say maybe it is dentistry, right? I'm right-handed. But this left side is underdeveloped. The soft, apparently the way that she explains this to me, the soft side, the feminine side is the left side. And so it is really underdeveloped because we are not receiving, we're giving, right? And so there goes that harmony and that balance. If you overdo it, if you keep just throwing things out there, you're not receiving enough, and that puts you out of balance, and it doesn't, and you're just not as happy as you could be.
I love practical and real world examples like that make sense. And then that you can find evidence of.
Yeah. In your own life. Yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So I'm wondering, you talk about how that right side, that giving, that helping others, that constant striving, achieving, I think that that's high achievers, that's dentists as a whole. And so, we often do struggle to celebrate our wins, struggle to get quiet and repair, and to let that growth truly happen. So what do you think are some techniques to embrace those achievements without tipping the scale away from that humility that is important too? How do we find harmony between celebrating and receiving, and then the achieving as well?
It's not easy to answer. It's not easy to live out. The proof that we have that we are overachieving and over attaining is the fact that in 1942 more than half of Americans got more than 8 hours of sleep. Today that number is at 24%. Since 1999 until today, the sales of melatonin have quadrupled. That means that we live in this incessant chatter, useless chatter of what we should be doing, right? What we are going to do next. And we can't fall asleep as a result of that. Or is that's one of the prices that we pay in all of that. My genuine belief is that part of the reason that we're so driven to succeed is because, and don't find the time to celebrate, is because we have remained too humble, because we have grown up to be humble. In every faith, if you've grown up with any faith, and I mean every faith, is Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, if I haven't mentioned Buddhism, Yeah. Sikhism, humility is a core value. It's a virtue. And we're also taught that that there's only two options. You can either be humble or arrogant, right? And if you are not humble, then you're arrogant, and you never want to be arrogant. There's nothing in the world that's worse than being arrogant. And so we don't celebrate the things that we have attained, because we think that if we celebrate them, it'll look like we're not humble. And if we're not humble, what else can we be? We are arrogant. And so we don't want people to feel bad about whether or not they've attained things. We don't want them to be envious of what we've attained. And so we have leveled at, maintaining our humility, that virtue. Now, this is not the case for everyone, because I'm sure every one of your listeners can come up with an idea of someone that they've been around that, could be narcissistic or arrogant. And my finding, however, has been that most of the people that I have either surrounded myself with or met with are on the other side. They're simply too humble about their accomplishments. And so, in finding the balance in giving and in receiving, because accepting yourself as someone that is successful is a part of their receiving. At least that's what I would think, right? Like you give, you attain. But then that step 5, when you have to take it and celebrate, that is a receiving. Yes, maybe it's a gift that you give yourself, but that is receiving, right? And so, so there's two things that I talk about when I talk about humility as evidence. One is, do you cringe when somebody compliments you? And I think Harvard Law Review or Harvard Business Review did an article on this, and the majority of us do cringe when we receive a compliment. Why? Because we're too humble. And also, we tend to write our challenges in stone and our wins in sand, where the ocean can come and sweep them away. And so when you're asking me for actionable things that you can do to move yourself from the point of giving and pursuing into the point of receiving your accomplishments, and then as you receive those accomplishments, you gain self-worth, right? And actually, the more self-worth you gain, the less likely you are to feed into your ego, because you already feel like you're enough. You don't have to. So working on those things, working on accepting a compliment that someone gives you, because as women, we know that if somebody tells you, Laura, I love your necklace, you might say, oh, you know what? I got this on sale, right? Or, oh, this old thing, finding the times that you do that, making yourself aware of the fact that you are taking away your own accomplishment, right? And then the second being flipping that around. Put your challenges in sand where they could be swept away. But we almost feel like unless we have lunch, dinner, and breakfast the following day with our challenge, I don't know. It feels like we have to have penance for it in some sort. And so we just spend way too much time with our challenges, and we spend a fraction of that time with our wins. And that's partly because we're human and we're programmed to pay attention to the negative as a protective measure. But paying attention to when someone compliments you, owning it, feeling it, and celebrating the moments which are worthy of celebration, as opposed to just sweeping those away to the side and moving on to the next challenge that we're trying to face. Mm-hmm. That was a really long-winded answer.
It was gorgeous, though. And I love what you say about challenges. We tend to just continue writing those stories, and they actually evolve and become beliefs. Mm-hmm. And why can't we do that with our wins instead?
That's the question. I think if you could solve it, you will be the next Tony Robbins. Right? That's the question. Yeah. I mean, we could say that it has to do with the way that we're genetically programmed. We're always looking out for the danger in our lives, and we have to stay on top of it as protective measure. That is so outdated. right? That goes back to being prehistoric human and being afraid of the, well, we didn't live with dinosaurs, but if we did, then it would be being afraid of the dinosaurs who could eat us. We're not afraid of our neighbors that can eat us right now.
Yeah. And, I mean, we can rewire, we can relearn, we're evidence of that. We've gone through how much schooling we've learned. I mean, we know more now than we did 20 years ago. We know that we can learn and change. And so why not learn and change this? And I guess, yeah, just starting small. I like the small steps, take the small steps, look at that compliment and really receive it. Maybe even
whip out a Post-it and write down the 3 things that really made you giggle today. And try to do that again tomorrow. I don't know if you have a dog. Do you know what it feels like to have that puppy eat from your hand? It's a pretty cool feeling. I mean, my dog is overweight now, but you know, you know where I'm going with this. It feels so good. And so every morning I make an effort now of don't put, because how long is that saving me? Literally 2 seconds. But I feel like I have to garnish those 2 seconds because they're needed somewhere else. That's not true.
And that's not an uncommon situation for everybody, because I think a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have time. And when you actually question what it is that somebody doesn't have time to do, and you say, how long does that take? The answer is typically a couple of seconds, right? But we're stuck on this treadmill of, you've got to keep going, got to keep going. If we don't keep going, then we're going to be late. And if we run late, then and you're kind of stuck in this high intensity energy, like frazzled, that couple of seconds of letting the dog eat off your palm for another 3 or 4 seconds will have no impact on your day, will it? Nope. But it brings you can't even put a value on the feeling of how good it is.
No, and then if you were to wait another 2 seconds and allow yourself to feel that. Yeah. Because that's just another step. That's an extension of living in that joy. Someone came to me and said that they were using this one podcast platform to listen to podcasts because the old podcast platform didn't allow them to listen to the podcast at 3x. And they needed to go at 3x. Now, mind you, for any of you that communicate with me on Marco Polo, I go at 2x. And I can't imagine going at 3x. And I listen to some books at 1.5x. But look at where we've gotten. Right? We're looking to put life on fast forward so often. I am so guilty of that.
Yeah.
How do you create that desire, that need to stay in that moment? Have you found any, if you could give advice to somebody who's listening that is going nonstop 2x, 3x all day long, to stop and take those moments feels uncomfortable at first. How do you get through the uncomfortable?
This is advice that I need to take myself, but when you do something and you do it at a normal speed, right? You meet someone, or let's say you're listening to something that you've wanted to hear for a long time, something that's worthy listening to. And when you listen to it at 2x, it goes by too fast, right? Like that favorite part, you just missed out. And it's actually, that's what's happening with our lives. By the time we blink, our kids are graduating 8th grade or graduating high school. Where did the time go? And does that have to do with the fact that we have put things on fast forward? And when you look back and you say, wow, that moment only lasted such a short time, but it was something that was so important in my evolution. Think of the moment in which you're living now, and how much are you going to miss that moment 3 years from now? I miss my kid when she was really little. I'm on a kick of watching her old videos. And she's not as much fun right now. She's in 8th grade. She's almost 14. but then I'm thinking when she's going to be 20, I'm going to have the same feelings about her being 13. So I need to start really staying in this moment because I'm going to miss out. But sometimes looking back, being retrospective about what we've missed out on, not in a way of having regrets, but simply of those most cherished moments. How many of the most cherished moments you've lived on 2x? None. How many times did you listen to the podcast that changed your world on 2x? My guess is none. If something is really worth learning, you're going to listen to it on 1x. You're going to live life on 1x if it's really worth living. But see, this unconscious chatter that we have that's created by our ego makes us uncomfortable in the world that we live in now. And so we got to get through it as fast as we can. We go on 2x, I think.
So true.
Excellent.
Okay, I think you've come up with a tagline for this podcast when we put it out, and it should be, "This is the podcast you need to listen to on 1x."
1x.
Because you've shared so much good stuff that this could change. So this is the podcast you need to listen to on 1x, not 2x. And I mean, you've shared so many great ideas, and there are different themes, and I kind of wanted to bring it all together with that. You've mentioned your own journey of resilience, and do you have a specific example of a time maybe when you had to overcome an occasion of self-doubt or lacking in confidence in that, but you did celebrate your success? Because you were talking before about how celebrating is that part that we really need to do. So I was just interested if you had that example for us.
So going back and a time in which I celebrated a success
that when you overcame a self-doubt or a lack of confidence or in a situation.
I think it's constantly, it probably happens every day. Today, for example, I had a tremendous, we were in therapy yesterday with my husband, and we had a really difficult session. And so today was going to be different. I was going to make some changes in the way that I live my life to make my husband feel like he's included in my life. And simple, very simple. We are both addicted to donuts. I mean, you put one donut in our house and it's a problem. Because we both want it. And I bought 2 donuts. So that it's simple, but it's a win on so many levels. 1, because I celebrated him. 2, because I remembered his favorite donut. 3, because I am going to make the time tonight for us to sit down with tea and the donut in our 3-season room and look out on the yard and hang out with our dog. And they were really simple things to do. And I have a ton of other things that I could be doing on my computer or on social media or writing, and I'm not going to do them. This is not an easy shift for me. Having said that, this is just whatever, day 1 or try number 10, day 1. Right. And so I hope that I can stick to this. I have tried it before and I faltered. So I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to try to make this work as many times as it takes before it becomes part of my second nature. Does that answer your question?
Totally. It was perfect. And I like the fact that that's an everyday answer. This happened. It's not an unusual, this is a once every how many years that this happens. It can happen every single day.
Yeah. It's the simple stuff. It really is. Like when people are at the end of their lives, I mean, how many times they say, I wish I would have taken more work trips, right? They don't say those things.
They wish they would have enjoyed the donut on the
the donut. My evening's going to be so good tonight.
What's your favorite donut?
I'm super simple girl, and I can send you, I actually have a picture of it, so you can put it in the notes. He likes an apple fritter, And I like just a glazed, not an old fashioned glaze, but just any glazed donut will do.
We had donuts this morning.
Oh, what a good life you lead.
My parents are visiting, and then that's a treat when they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have the maple glazed for me. That's my favorite one.
What about you?
I love and I don't know what they're called, but they're the puffy ones with the cream on the inside and the powdered sugar on the outside.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We could do a podcast about donuts.
Just on donuts.
Oh my gosh. I can't say no to a good donut.
See, the donuts make the world go round.
Oh,
literally.
Yes. Well, donuts are definitely 1x because you do not want to 2x when you're eating your donut, right?
No, you don't. And the calories of the donuts are unforgiving, right? So, I mean, I wish I lived a life where I could have a donut an hour, but maybe then it wouldn't taste as good as if I have it, once a month. 1x on your donut. Exactly. Yes. And give the scraps to your dog.
And then enjoy the moment because you get to feel their gentle little touch on your hand, and it's just a win-win. Oh my gosh. Well, let us know what is on the horizon for you. I'm sure our listeners would love to know a little more about you. How can they find out about you? What's coming up? What do you love to do? As far as we're talking here about the harmony between 1x and 2x, but what is it that you want to inspire others with, and how can they find out more about that?
My website is maggieaugustyn.com, MAGGIE. I think I'm in the throes of being really confused about life because there's so many, like I have a true passion for holding a handpiece. I really am in flow. And I'm almost high when I'm in someone's mouth. I really love what I do for a living. I love being on stage and I love speaking, and I'm a huge introvert, which is kind of hard to conceptualize. And writing is my healing. But I have prioritized those things far too much, like I mentioned at the beginning. And so my family is suffering on account of that. And I say that my family is the most important thing to me, but yet I don't seem to be walking that walk. And so I have been trying to put my career on 2x. I've just been moving from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other without break. And my body's keeping score. And I've had, shingles return 3 times in 2 years. And it's too much. I really enjoy speaking. That is one way that I can give back and make sense of this pain that I've been through. My life hasn't necessarily been easy. Not that anybody's life has been, but certainly making sense of all my challenges is why I have decided to be on stage. But I think next for me is maybe slowing down a little bit. My year 2024 is that the year we're in. Is pretty booked. I'll be at Anissa Holmes delivering WOW. I'll be speaking at PDA workshop. I'll be sharing a large stage, keynoting a 1,000 people audience in September, and that's not released yet. I'm keynoting internationally, but I need to rethink that. And I think that I need to maybe create fewer experiences on stage for everybody else and more experiences between my dog and I, my husband and I, my daughter and I. And I really do sincerely appreciate that question, because I know this is an opportunity for me to spread my message and put myself out there in the world for anybody that would like to get in touch with me. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Again, it's Dr. Maggie at myhappytooth.com or maggieaugustyn.com is the best way to get a hold of me. But I don't know, maybe I need to to be a little bit more of a hermit over the night. I mean, I've only got my daughter and I only have one child. I only have my daughter in the house for 4 years, and this is all going to be high school. So forget 2X is going to go on 3X, right? And as soon as she gets her driver's license, Karen, right, it'll go on 4X.
Yeah, I guarantee. I think Laura and I have the same experience, that it just flies by. It does.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this is such a powerful message, because you're again bringing up something that I think a lot of people feel, but don't feel worthy expressing.
It's I mean, back to the self-worth, right? We are so fed self-worth by our ego. And I think if we were to slow down, we could be fed just as much at 1X spending time with our families. But I'm so afraid of losing my self-worth. I'm afraid of feeling like a failure if I'm not on stage. That's my battle of the day.
Well, and it makes me think too, like you said, you enjoy things at 1X. You cherish them, you feel them, you experience them at a different level. And so what if success at 1X is more impactful than success at 2 or 3X?
And I just got some free life coaching advice from Laura. Yes, right. Yes. Yeah.
So to anybody listening, I just think that this podcast is a gift to anybody that's feeling that drive, that stress, that 2X success.
Yeah.
And really, if you do the 1X, it could be a 10X success, right?
Yes, right. I think living life at 1X, we're not going to regret on our deathbed. I'm learning a lot from this podcast myself. It's making me rethink a lot of different things, and I really like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as always, any conversation that we ever have with you is one that takes us to a place where sometimes we aren't sure we want to go, but at the end, we're happy we did. And so I just like to shine some appreciation on the fact that you're willing to take us there. And that's what we need more of in the world. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for what you're bringing into the world of these young people and not so young people. I know how much my life has changed as a result of coaching. I think it was more impactful probably than therapy, although it's not a substitute for therapy. It's learning to be your own cheerleader and figuring out who you are. And that should be required as part of growing up and becoming human.
And with that, I think that's our mic drop right there. Thank you, Dr. Maggie Augustyn. We appreciate you, and we know that our listeners will adore this podcast and hope to find some encouragement from it. So thanks again for spending some time with us, and we hope to see you somewhere and have a nice 1X conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of the Mentor Podcast. Bye.
We adore our listeners. Connect with us at thementor.net.